Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Unmasked podcast. My name is Andy. I hope you're doing well wherever you are listening this podcast to today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, on the IndieAndy channel. Just hello, welcome, all of that lovely stuff. But today's podcast, I am joined by Lauren, and she is a autistic Instagrammer, content creator from the US of A. And I just want to say, Lauren, it's lovely to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, that's terrific. We were actually talking before I clicked the record button that I only got introduced to you about 6 months ago.
Yes, during an autism game show, I think that we played with a few friends.
Yeah. Oh God, it feels like such a long time ago now. It was literally an autism quiz, wasn't it? It was just like random bits of information and stuff, and just, I guess the right answers and things. But it was really nice, I thought.
It was, and I won, so it was a great experience.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I completely forgot you won. Oh no. Oh God. But anyway, yes. So I've only known you for a little while, but your Instagram page is really great. But actually, just the I forgot to actually say what your Instagram name is because I cannot actually say it unless someone's actually said it. Said like, I don't know. I kind of find it difficult to formulate words if someone hasn't actually told them to me previously.
No worries. So on Instagram, I'm known as Autienelle. So that's my handle. I'm also on Twitter, but mostly I just talk about different kinds of coping skills that autistics can employ or maybe even just ponder over as we try to navigate a neurotypical and largely ableist society. My mantra has been always autistics nurturing autistics. And the way that I try to live that out is by learning from my community, the different struggles that we face, and then researching and applying my own experiences into giving Auti tips on how we can navigate the day to day.
Which I think is really, really great. Because before I got introduced to you and your Instagram page, um, I don't know, I didn't realize how many Instagram like autistic content creators there actually were, and I don't know for yourself, and just by following that community, it's pretty large. The community itself, I have to say.
Yes, and it's continuously growing. I started Autienelle back in 2016, and it's just been so inspiring to see how many more autistic voices are coming out through social media and how we can build each other up and learn from each other in that way and just feel a sense of community and kind of just throw out that feeling that we're alone because so many of us, myself included, we know so few autistics in real life. So to be able to access people who can understand my experiences through social media has been really game changing.
And I can only echo that, really. To be honest, because I don't really know that many autistics in real life either. Well, I used to, but not so much now. Just I don't know. You know how life is, where you just lose touch with people and stuff. But the online community for me has been really validating, and from what we both create, I just hope that it helps people. I think.
Yes, I think helping one another and lifting one another up is so essential when every day can feel not necessarily every day, but many days can feel like a struggle. So to be there for one another and this online community is something that I'm very grateful that I have access to being a person in the 21st century.
Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely agree with that. But just as a kind of preview for what people will be listening to us talk about today, that made a lot more sense in my head. Basically, as a preview to what we could actually talk about today, we're going to be talking about media representation, representation in the media of autism, autistic people, all of that sort of stuff. I believe, Lauren, you came to me with the idea, or did I come to you with the idea? I can't remember how we even came across the conversation because it was months ago, I believe, when we first started talking about it.
Well, I think I came to you with an idea about talking about internalized ableism. And from there, we continued our conversations and landed on autism in the media as more and more things are cropping up this year. And I think we've had we were having that conversation for quite some time. And even during that time that we were discussing, more and more things kept happening. So I am glad that we landed here and that we'll be discussing this today.
Yes, I am as well. I really am, especially recently as well with the whole Sia autistic community controversy as well. I think having a discussion about representation in general and all of that stuff, I think will be really really great. But one of the questions I do ask all of my podcast guests, and I don't know, it's a good way for people to find out about you, and for me to find out a little bit more about you as well. What are your special interests?
Many of my most passionate special interests revolve around music and music artists. So currently, and for the last 2 years, my special interest has been the pop band BTS that hails from Korea. And so that's
Mm,
my main special interest. I would say I spend around 6 hours a day researching and exploring their music and different things like that. And then my other special interest, which I've actually carried with me since I was 13, is Japanese visual kei heavy metal. And that has been a huge deal for me. And I've listened to it off and on my whole teen and adult life now. I've gone to see bands at several conventions and meet
mhm.
them. And it's something that I just really enjoy. I find that music has really helped me to explore my emotions. And I very much value music and music artists for that reason.
I like Japanese culture. Like it's very curious. It makes me very curious, but just it's such a diverse place as well. I have to say, and like I don't know if you know this, Lauren, or not, but I do music myself. I'm in a band, but nowhere near as cool as BTS.
I did not know that you were in a band. I did not know that you were in a band.
I play the guitar, the lead one. That's about it, really. I don't really say much about it. It's just a thing that I do when I'm not advocating online.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that we have a love for music in common.
Yes, absolutely. I could talk to you about music all day and like find out a bit more, but representation in the media for autistic people is one of those topics which I think is really important to talk about today. Um, how do you want to start this off? Because we do have a guys, who are listening. We do have an actual plan. It's just I don't know how to start the conversation off. Really.
Well, we're talking about music, and it's a little ironic because Sia's film is called Music, and she's trying to explore autism in her own way through music. And while maybe her original intentions were good, it is clear for many autistics that the process and execution has, to put it one way, it has a bit lacking.
That's I couldn't think of a better way of putting that, but that's actually a really good way of putting it. So for people who I don't know, for whatever reason, have not heard about this. It's quite possible, because of the how the internet works. But basically, Sears it's going to put out a film in February 2021 called Music, as Lawrence has said. In effect, it's about, or it's it includes a autistic character, a non-speaking autistic character. I was going to say non-verbal, Lauren, but after this whole topic came up, I kind of realized that non-verbal's not necessarily the right thing to say.
I do think that many non-speaking individuals prefer the term non-speaking, but if we are wrong, please correct us.
Yeah, no, please do, because I might be autistic, and Lauren might be autistic, but it doesn't mean we know everything, and the more we know about the people we're trying to advocate for and things, it just helps. But yes, Sia's releasing the film. I saw the trailer, but I wanted to know what you thought, Lauren, about it.
I saw the trailer as well, although I don't plan to see the film. And I have a lot of opinions about Sia's choices. She mentioned that she tried initially to have a non-speaking autistic person take on the role of Music, who is the name of the autistic girl in the film, but that
Mm.
the autistic actress that she had hired couldn't handle the process of filming. And so she said goodbye to that actress, as Sia put it, for the actress's benefit, and hired Maddie Ziegler instead.
And Maddie Ziegler is the girl who is, well, she's been a part of Sia's music videos for years. And I think Maddie is also Sia's godmother as well, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I did read it somewhere. But no, Maddie was cast for, well, is cast for the part of Music in Sia's film called Music. That's really confusing. Why did she have? Why is the title character the title of the film? That's so confusing.
Well, I think Sia's trying to make a point about music and maybe how it is a world that everyone can access and see beauty in. However, Sia's choices in casting a non-autistic actor to play the role of an autistic character is troubling in many ways, especially given that she says that she tried, but then could not provide the accommodations necessary in order to make that a good experience for the autistic actor. And we also aren't sure if she tried again, if she tried once and then thought, oh, no, it's too much. Let's just go with an holistic actor. I think that is troubling because Sia is not autistic. Maddie Ziegler is not autistic. And their actual understanding and research of autism has come from very singular experiences with one non-speaking autistic individual. And from there,
Mm.
researching through watching YouTube videos of autistics, many of whom were having meltdowns and the videos were taken without their consent. At least that's what I've heard through Twitter and other social media. So if anyone wants to fact check me on that, please let me know what you find. And I just find this to be troubling. I find it to be troubling because what is the purpose then in making a film that represents or is supposed to represent the autistic experience if autistics were not included in the research process in a really truly authentic way? Then who is the audience? Is the audience actually autistics, or is the audience holistics who wish to be inspired by, you know, disability representation that makes them feel good about themselves because they watched something? Because now they feel like maybe they understand, but do they understand?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. And I feel like with Sia and the way she has kind of conducted herself hasn't been great, really, especially with the responses online that she's done. Guys, if you haven't watched my video on that, I'll link it somewhere in the description. For me, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about media representation is because I do. I'm not as, I don't know. I don't have that mindset where if it is, about an autistic character, that it should necessarily be an autistic person acting it. But my thought process on that is it has, you have to at least try to accommodate. You have to at least, give it your best. Well, not even give it your best shot, just, make an assertive effort to have that representation there, not even in the main leading role, all of the work that goes into any form of production, yeah, autistic voices need to be heard and represented, you know, and in the thing with, casting, trying to cast, the autistic person, and that obviously, fell through. It's just, if that was a workplace, if it was, I don't know, say, well, acting is a workplace, and if accommodations weren't put in, that's just bad practice. If that was an office environment where an autistic person needed accommodations in order for them to work, and those accommodations weren't given, a lot of eyebrows would be raised. But I feel like that hasn't been done here. But the thing is, like, this is nothing new. It's something that has happened and does potentially continue to happen.
Yes, I think that there has been a long-standing misrepresentation of autistics in the media. That what's going on right now with Sia isn't new. I mean, we had Love on the Spectrum earlier this year, which had many uh, varying responses along the autism community or the autistic
Mm.
community. And prior to that, we've had Newt Scamander and Fantastic Beasts, played by Eddie Redmayne, and other various roles. I know that there have been many TV shows, especially in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, the A word is one that I can think of, but for that one, the autistic person's played by a younger child. But I feel like there is a bit of a difference between the way it's represented, where autism is represented in media based on country. I feel, I don't know if there is a difference. I just feel that there is a difference. I mean, with Love on the Spectrum, for example, I felt like it was about autistic people, but it was from the aspect of telling, people what it's like, but it's not. It wasn't really. It was a bit of a muddle. Like, it was trying to show the autistic experience, but it was kind of condescending at some parts at the same time. Whereas the A word, because it was done in the UK, I know the charity that actually helped with the research, and I do support them. The National Autistic Society in the UK, I do support them. The way that research was done and put into the character, it was, in my own opinion, it was done a lot better. So it's really weird how, when autism is portrayed in film and TV, that it is so different. I don't know if you've noticed that, Lauren. Anyway.
I think that when I've watched autism representation in the media, I don't often consider the country it's coming from. I'm just paying attention to the way that the autistic person is being portrayed or represented. And Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them with Newt Scamander, played by Eddie Redmayne, was a British movie. And I felt very uncomfortable when I learned that Eddie Redmayne had been trying to portray an autistic person. I learned that after I watched the movie, and it truly shocked me. For many people, I heard them say, "Oh, that makes so much sense." A lot of my holistic friends said that. And I turned to them and said, "How? I don't see that at all." I felt like I felt like Eddie Redmayne had played an autistic child, yet he was supposed to be a man.
Hmm.
And I felt as though it played into the stereotype that autistic people are children and that they are never adults. And that very much frustrated me. But I do have to say, in Eddie Redmayne's favor, that I appreciated his performance much more in the second film.
I was going to say, Lauren, don't give me any spoilers because I still have not watched the second one.
Well, let me tell you everything.
Oh God, no, 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 no! It's like Pandora's box. You don't. Oh, I'm basically I'm terrible with watching films. I really am. Unless it's something I really love and I know I want to watch. It, you know, but my fiance is more of the Harry Potter fan than I am. I do enjoy it though, but I have to say on Newt Scamander, I have to say it was really weird for me because when I watched it for the first time, I kind of felt like they would try. Well, Eddie Redmayne was, showcasing those traits. It was it felt obvious to me, but it wasn't something that I thought about there and then. It was like, oh, that I kind of feel, somewhat relatable to the character, and it's really weird to me, for you actually, coming from you, saying that he was looking into those aspects, and I feel what doesn't help with the media representation is where people are getting their research from. Like,
Mm.
oh, I, I think it was must have been. I feel like Atypical is one of those examples, especially with the first season. Um, I remember when I watched it for the first time, it just felt like they were, I don't know, when they were building the character, someone had the ingenious idea of looking through the DSM-5 and cutting splicing traits together, because it just it felt really incoherent. And I'm not saying that New Salamander is like an example of that. It's just, for me, you have to have the right research there, I feel, when it comes to the media representation, because if something is done really well, if a character lights up people's imaginations and that carries it, you know, far beyond, release, and it becomes, I don't know, something more, and people kind of look back at it, people might say, that is the representation, that is a representation when it's, based on not so well thought out research or, consideration.
Yes, I think that research is very key. I do personally prefer the idea, especially since there are so many stereotypes and misrepresentations. I do personally prefer the idea of autistics playing autistics. However, if that is not going to happen, so much research needs to be done, and research needs to be done on where the research should be done before they actually dive into the what does autism look and feel like phase. I don't know, but I think that that shows in how some people have been using like Autism Speaks as their main place for research when the actually autistic community or people who are autistic do have felt for a while that Autism Speaks in many ways pushes forth those damaging stereotypes and representations of autistics. So if the research is coming from an organization that many autistics feel misrepresent them, there's going to be disconnect between autistic audiences and autism representation in the media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't remember who where I found this, but like some people were saying that Sia's research was done in conjunction with Autism Speaks, but apparently she said no, Autism Speaks came on board after the fact. With that whole thing is obviously like you said, Lauren, and I, even though I live in the UK and we don't have Autism Speaks here, it's not just about the UK, it's about, the worldwide portrayal. And if, the facts and the experiences of autistic people are, being misconstrued, or there's not enough sides to the cube, I'm going to coin that phrase now, the many sides of the cube that exist. If you have like one or two version well if you have one or two sides of that cube that are, points of view, you're going to miss out on the rest of the sides of the cube, which ultimately enhances the experience for, autistic viewers, but also people who are not autistic, non-autistic viewers, and I feel like when it comes to any form of media representation, even if it's about autism, the people who make the stuff don't necessarily think about the autistic viewers at all. It kind of comes secondary or after the fact.
I think that most people who create media in these instances, the autistic community is not their primary audience because if you look statistically, there are less autistics than allistics. And
Hmm.
how are you going to make money off of your media that, someone has put out? They've put lots of money into the media. They need to make money once it's released. And so it needs to reach a neurotypical audience since that's where most of their viewership will come from. And I think that that shows itself very vividly in autistic representation. And honestly, when I see and when I hear that a new autistic role has come up in some form of media, while I wish I felt excited, I usually feel nervous. Not that I think that there's going to be a perfect autistic role in some media representation because autistics are each unique. We're so diverse.
Hmm.
Once you meet one autistic, you've met one autistic. So I don't think that there will ever be an autism role, like the perfect script for that will reach every autistic experience. So I don't think that way. I do wish that when I prepared myself to see an autistic role in the media, that I could feel excitement to learn something new about the autism community, about my community, as opposed to being
Hmm.
nervous about whether or not this will actually teach people, show people, educate people about autistic experiences.
Yeah, I have to say, when it comes to anything to do with media, I do get nervous. It's just because there are a lot of voices in our community, and I think talking about autism is one of those things that, it's not going to be right. It's not, I don't know, it's not like a math problem, where, you have the question, you have the answer based on that question. When it's experiences, when it's about stereotypes and those experiences, stereotypes being portrayed on screen, it's, I think you are right, it is obviously aimed at a neurotypical audience because firstly it has to be from a business financial point of view, but I do personally wish that there was some aspects of, well, mainstream media that, I don't know, do a bit more to not necessarily find the perfect autistic role and put it in a story because it meets a quota, because then that's kind of surmounting to peer pressure, which just isn't there. I think for me, if a role is done where there's enough care, love, and attention, from the people who are making the character and things, and there is kind of that collaboration with the autistic community. I think it. I think it can help things. I think.
Yes, I agree. And I think it is hard. I think it is difficult to somehow reach so many audiences, but show that care and authenticity in a role. I think that there are a lot of parallels that can be drawn in some sense between what's going on with autistic representation in the media and what it has been and is still currently going on with LGBTQ representation in the media. I think that queer representation in the media has been slowly but surely getting more authentic and more stories are written by queer people for queer people. And I think that
Hmm.
autism right now might be in the same place where that queer representation began. These are battles for representation, battles for autistic actors to be playing autistic roles, battles for adequate research. These are things that have happened in so many different marginalized communities. And
Hmm.
I hope that we can see those patterns, learn from those patterns, and help these long standing battles try to make them grow a little bit shorter. Let's have a shorter battle for once.
I agree. I agree. Though, to be fair, I do kind of get what you mean. Probably 10, 15 years ago, personally for me, I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, I couldn't really remember a time where um, the experiences of gay, lesbian, bisexual people were even talked about in mainstream media. It wasn't something that happened, but now, you have people sharing their stories, and that's what I kind of hope for our community, though. I do kind of hope that will happen, and I feel like it needs to happen. I think because I think just going back to the Sia thing, it is going to be probably a thing that will crop up during this podcast. But going back to the Sia thing, I feel like she has obviously a vision of what she wants to do, and as someone who is a creative person, I'm not arguing with the vision. I don't necessarily believe she was doing it maliciously, but I just feel, and this is what I've been telling everyone who's been kind of going onto my video, giving his hate, saying, "Oh, C is perfect in every single way under the sun." I'm not arguing about the vision. I just kind of wished that more was done, really, to allow for autistic voices to be heard and for those stories to be told by autistic people. And also sharing stories from the autistic point of view, which otherwise might not have been shown. I mean, oh, there was a short film that came out a while back. Oh, what was it called? I've completely forgotten what it's called, but it was a short film about a black autistic boy and her mum. That to me seeing that as a white guy, I didn't understand those experiences. How there's no way for me to understand, but by having media out there like that, which doesn't it opens the can a little bit into the world. It's so helpful. I just think it's just so important to have our stories out there told by people like us, really. Not, and not having people like Sia, for example, be the middle person to that.
Yes, I know what film you're talking about, and the name of it is slipping my mind as well. But I know that they had a board of consultants for that short film, and I know for a fact one of them is a an autistic mother of an autistic child. And so
Hmm.
I believe that they really did put a lot of effort into understanding and researching.
It was called In a Beat. It was called In a Beat. I've just
And
remembered
a
it.
beat. There we go. And a beat. Yes. That came out earlier this year at a very good time. Continuing what you were saying about how we are needing more autistic roles in the media, how
Mm.
the vision can be there, how the representation can be there, and how that's good. It almost feels sometimes as though some of the people who make these films that are maybe less of an authentic representation of autistics, or these movies, these other media pieces, sometimes it feels like when we as autistics voice that we want a little bit more, please. Sometimes it feels as though the creators say to us, or they don't say it directly, but it feels like they're saying, can't you be satisfied with what we've given you?
Hmm.
Isn't this good enough given how bad your situation is right now? Why are you complaining? I did just enough.
It's kind of weird that you brought that up, actually, because I I read an article. Again, it's kind of linked to the Sia thing, but actually, no, it wasn't. No, sorry, it wasn't linked to the Sia thing. It's kind of funny that you brought it up because it was from a stage performer. He was the first autistic person to play an autistic character on Broadway. It was for the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. I read the article. I'll link it down below if I can find it because it was actually really insightful. He was talking about how the producers of the show was people had said to him, "Oh, you can't because you're autistic," and because of this reason, that reason. But the thing is, he got there. He pushed forward, and he got to where he wanted to be. But it shouldn't be that hard, for us to achieve what we want to achieve. So I guess actually my question, Lauren, actually is like, how can filmmakers make the process accessible to autistic people?
One, I think it begins with the casting call and knowing where to do a casting call. And I do have to say that I have actually been reached. This is not a brag. I have been reached by people trying to make TV shows about autistics because they've realized, oh, maybe we should actually go on Instagram or Twitter where these activists, these advocates are talking, and reach
All
out
right.
there. Yeah, like
Hmm.
maybe the original way of casting doesn't work in this instance. And then he took a breath.
I did.
Were you going to say something? Go, go.
uh, I was just gonna say, for me, I don't really like. For me, I don't really notice, any casting calls. Actually, with the way that they did Love on the Spectrum, it was they were at a Comic Con event, a Comic Con type convention sort of thing, and they kind of pulled together, these people. I don't know if it was a Comic Con event, Comic Con convention. It was just what was said, and it's just like, if you are casting people for a show, surely you should look more outwardly. And it's actually nice, actually, to hear that people are actually using social media to actually find people. It is actually quite good. So I'm just echoing what you're saying, Lauren. Really, it should be, trying to find people, through the communities, that we inhabit.
Well, I'll spill a little tea, but Love on the Spectrum reached out to me via Instagram. So that was not the only way
Mm.
that they sought people. They did reach out to me. So that shows that in some way, I guess they were attempting to have a more diverse cast, and they reached out via an Instagram message. I did not do Love on the Spectrum, as we all know, but that's because I'm not seeking a relationship, which is what I told them. I said, this sounds great, but I'm not seeking a relationship. And they were like, are you sure? And I was like, yes.
Uh, Fair enough. It must have been with the, I don't know. I don't know. That's all I heard anyway. But Yeah, I think just reaching out the cast call I think would be really good. But do you think that if it's a film or TV show that autistic consultants should be included in the process, do you think?
100%. I don't think that anything should happen about autistics without autistics present, speaking into it, looking at it, even playing some roles as producers, to look at it once it's over and give that feedback and actually listen to that feedback before pushing it forward into the mainstream. I think autistic voices on production and on consultation should be a given in many ways.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, especially with the writing because I don't know. It's like the essence of what the thing's about. But I didn't. I'm just trying to think how. What does a producer actually do? I've heard, I keep hearing. I've heard the title of producer, but is it just the person that produces the actual film or TV show? I don't know what is actually included. To be honest.
Production, I'm not a huge film person in terms of what goes on behind the stage, but what I've heard in the past is that production has a lot of different roles. Production can have to do with the initial beginnings and what kind of thing are we going to make? What kind of thing are we going to produce? And I believe production has a huge role in cutting down, editing, and changing the product. Kind of like there's a first draft and then it goes to production to make the final draft.
Right. So, yeah, I can't personally say if it's an autism based thing. Why someone who is autistic is not in the production chair. In my opinion, I think to kind of enhance the experiences of not just the backstage, but the people who are actually on the stage. In these films, in these TV shows, I guess for me, something that would be quite insightful, I think for them is, if there's, a consult, a consulter, a consultee, what I don't know what, a con,
Consultant.
that's
Consultant.
it. Thank you for stopping me. I was just gonna go in a loop, to be honest. Yeah, if they were consulting, the actors and actresses who are not autistic to understand the experience, from I guess to enhance the experience as well, so they can actually understand kind of the reasons why the person is doing this action. It just makes it, I don't know, it makes it more genuine. I feel, but it also gives them experience for the future, which I think is what we try to do. So why not actually apply that in a meaningful way to people who probably don't necessarily need to know these sorts of things, but should really know.
Yes, I think that can come out in so many small ways too. So I think that, for example, many holistics might have a very narrow understanding of what stimming is, what it looks like, and what it feels like. Because for many holistics, upon looking at stimming, it can seem random. It can seem perhaps even bizarre, and I'm putting bizarre in quotations there. For me, when I see stimming or when I stim myself, it's not random and it's rhythmic in a lot of ways. It doesn't seem sporadic and capricious. It seems very structured in a lot of ways and rhythmic and calming. Even for me to, when I see another person stimming, that's what I see. So I think it could be so helpful if there's going to be stimming involved in a film to have autistics really speak into that experience and not have it come from just a neurotypical lens.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, it would be actually really interesting if I don't know if film producers or whoever else is listening to this. I think it'd be interesting if just more topics on about autism were discussed, not just showcasing trait, I guess, for me. So
Mm,
I feel that when it comes to representation, people, it's always like remember how Raymond from Rain Man. It's a poor example. I really don't like. I don't like the film. I think it's just atrocious. But Raymond from Rain Man can count matchsticks that have fallen like 2 seconds on the floor. Like people remember like I don't know like the savant gifts and what
yes.
all those amazing things. It would be nice to actually see more. I don't like to use the term because I don't think there is such this term's really right, but a more normalized kind of version of, what we experience day to day. Obviously, it doesn't sell. I don't think it sells well, but I think, just having some integrity about it, I guess, would be would be nice.
I think I understand what you're saying. Having roles where autistic people are maybe in a film or in a TV show where their role isn't to be the autistic character, but that they're actually a full character with a full spectrum, no pun intended, of life experiences, hopes, dreams, wants, struggles, and they are autistic.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Like, it's not, again, I hate using the word, but kind of obvious. Like, I think, again, I think that does depend on your audience. But I think when you're out there in the real world, it's not always obvious. And I think that's the thing that I think media needs to catch up on. I'm hoping that it does translate over into media, TV and film and all the rest of it.
Yes, I think that there has to be a balance that's struck. We do need representation in the media of autistics, which means that there is a vast spectrum of autistics and a vast spectrum of needs and supports and different ways that I guess it manifests outwardly. So I would be so saddened if autistic representation in the media started shifting 100% towards autistics who don't look autistic, right? You don't look autistic. Or I think they said in Love on the Spectrum, I'm not seeing the autism, or I'm not seeing a disability right now, is what one of the people
Yeah.
said to one of the individuals on a date. I would be very saddened if that was only the people that were represented in the media, because in a weird way, maybe they'll feel more accessible to neurotypical audiences. So I do want there to still be representation of autistics where maybe autism is more visible, but there has to be a balance that's struck there between the two, or I shouldn't even say the two, probably between the 50, between the 5,000, between the millions of autism experiences. There's got to be
Yeah.
some kind of, because that's the reality of autism. There isn't a singular autism. And if that's not being shown in the media, then autism is not being adequately represented. And I'm not saying that has to be shown in a single film. You have to have every single kind of autistic experience that you can think of. But just across films, across TV, it would be very nice if we saw the full spectrum of autism.
Yeah, actually, I agree. I agree with that very much. It's it's weird because when I think for me, when before I started advocating and making YouTube videos and things, I would often see these films, TV shows, and things, thinking I just wanted to see me being represented. But the more I've come to realize, there's only one me. Yes, we can share traits and dislikes and share our love of, I don't know, share our special interest of BTS and things, but it's like it's impossible to represent. But showcasing, I think, like you said, the full spectrum, I think it's actually really important, and I don't think it's something people should be shying away from. I think, but I just feel. it has to be done in the right way. I feel it has to be. I think yeah, just done in the right way. I can't think of anything clever or spontaneous to conclude that point. It just has to be done in the right way.
in a way that has truly good intentions.
Yeah.
That's my
Yes.
add-on there. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Lauren, is there anything do you feel that we haven't covered that we could
I think we covered
cover?
all of our talking points. The only thing we haven't covered is that Sheldon Cooper never came up, but that's fine. Everybody knows about him. Okay, but yeah, we covered all of our talking points. So
What about Sheldon Cooper though?
no, we really don't need to bring up Sheldon Cooper. Like it will. I have like the weirdest love-hate relationship with Sheldon Cooper. Like I think he's problematic, but I also think he is, in a weird way, comedy can do things that drama can't. In terms of like building bridges. That's all.
I don't think we need to talk about Sheldon
No,
Cooper
we don't.
because
That was a joke.
no, no, it was like literally. I didn't know this whole thing existed. Honestly, I didn't. I didn't even think about it. I was. I liked not knowing, but then I knew. Then it kind of just. I don't know. I can't look at Sheldon the same way, so I'm not going to ruin it. For not ruin it. Ruin it's the wrong word. I don't know. I
Sour
don't
it.
know. Go out and find out for yourselves. There we go.
Oh, you don't want to break the news to other people. It's funny. Okay. Yeah, we don't need to talk about Sheldon.
But no, guys, if you, I don't know, want to continue the conversation with us, let us know on social media. Lauren's social media is going to be linked down below. Let us know what you think about autism representation in the media. Do you kind of agree with us? Do you have your own thoughts? Let us know, especially if you're on YouTube and you're listening to this as well. Definitely leave a comment and let us know, really. Lauren, where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as Autienelle. Most of my posts are Audie tips, and I always take requests for Audie tips there. And I'm also present on Twitter, where I say much more soundbitey things under Audienelle as well.
As the last question of my podcast, because I'm asking everyone this because it's an open ended question, and I love a good and honest open ended question. How do people unmask? Like how do you think people can unmask?
I think it's a long process, but I think one of the best ways to start the process of unmasking is to begin by learning how to say no. I think masking and long-term masking comes from a societal pressure to be socially conditioned to do what others want you to do to make them more comfortable. And many of us autistics really struggle with setting boundaries and saying no to people because we've been conditioned to put their needs before our own. So I would say that one of the first steps to unmasking is to maybe just take a week and only agree to do things that are really wanted, like what you, what we really want to do, and to document how that makes us feel. Because a lot of the time, it probably won't make you feel good. It's scary. But I think that's the first step to the process is to learn to say no, because masking is saying yes to things we don't want. And unmasking is learning to say no. I will be myself when you tell me not to be myself.
Do you know what? I think that is a really good answer. Like, it's an open ended question. I don't know, do you love a good open ended question? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Absolutely not, Andy. I actually really, I mean, that was a good open-ended question. I think that's the point. A good open-ended question, I love. A poorly constructed open-ended question will, I will literally say, can you say that in another way? But that was a good open-ended question. I approved of that one.
Ah, splendid. Thank you. And thank you for coming on my podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This has been wonderful.
Well, guys, this is another episode of the Unmasked podcast out of the way, done, dusted. But if you're listening on Apple Podcast, and you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a review because it helps. It does help. Leave a thumbs up on the video if you listen on YouTube. Share the podcast out. It really helps. Especially if you enjoy it as well, and it helps. It all helps. But anyway, this is another episode of the Unmasked podcast done. And from me and Lauren, I guess we'll see you in the future sometime. So until next time, take care and bye bye.